Have you heard of this thing called ChatGPT? Yeah, I figured you probably had. Generative AI has been a huge topic of conversation and certainly in the headlines for the past couple of years. But what you may not know is how you can use generative AI in order to be a more powerful presenter. That's what we're going to be talking about today with Speaker Dynamics communication coach and tech specialist, Maggie Miller. She has a diverse background in everything from TV news to corporate communications and marketing. And she has deep expertise in technology, which means that she is always on top of the latest trends. So today we're going to find out more about how we can use generative AI to improve how we come across as speakers. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Karin Reed. I'm a four-time author, Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist, and communication expert on helping people to own the room, whether it be a physical one or a virtual one. Welcome to Speaker Dynamics. Maggie Miller, thank you so much for being here today. I always love our conversations, but I'm really looking forward to this one.
I cannot wait to share more with you, Karin, about this topic. I'm so passionate about it.
Right. Well, and you are our tech specialist, so you're the perfect person for me to have on the pod to talk about this, because I want to actually ask you a question related to our mutual background. So, we worked in TV news, in general, we've been creatives, with a capital C and in quotations for, our entire professional careers. So my initial response when ChatGPT burst onto the scene was, ugh, this is terrible. Just because I felt like, how is it possible that a machine would be able to do something that, I have, made, my life's work? But I want to hear your opinion on it. Like, what was your initial response whenever, ChatGPT first came into, our orbit?
Well, I definitely had a different response. I was like, ooh, what is this? Oh, something that could help me, something that could do things for me I didn't know possible, has a bigger brain than I do.
Yeah.
So I was actually really excited about it. But I want to talk to you a little bit about how I first got into ChatGPT, and it wasn't creating powerful presentations. It was something else. Okay. Kind of simple. But then when I started digging deeper, that's when I started to really unlock the real value of ChatGPT. So I'm so excited to take you through that today.
Well, let's begin. I want to know how was this first, brought to your attention?
Yeah. So I got started using ChatGPT. I mean, I think a lot of people saw it and really didn't know what to do with it. But I started playing around with it by travel planning. So I think I mentioned to you earlier that I planned several trips. I went to Amsterdam earlier this year and Napa, and I used ChatGPT to plan the trips. And I'll tell you, my travel buddies, they love these itineraries that I put together for the trip. They were really special. They were very personalized to the type of people that I was traveling with. And so that's kind of how I got started with ChatGPT. It was something as simple as travel planning.
That is a fascinating use case, which, geez, I wish I had done that, because I planned a big trip for my family a couple years ago, and the hours I put into researching and just Googling everything, it was really, really terrible. So that would have been so much easier. So thank you, Maggie. I'm going to, change my typical way of doing it to, using ChatGPT for that purpose. But one of the things that I wanted to focus on today, obviously, is, in our wheelhouse, which is powerful presentations. But let's apply it to your expertise as somebody who has been living in the generative AI world for a while. So what do you see as the biggest benefit for Gen AI when it comes to creating powerful presentations?
Well, I think there are really three main benefits for using generative AI for creating powerful presentations. The first one is really the biggest one in my mind, is the time saving. So tools like ChatGPT can really create outlines. They can come up with ideas and even create images for you very quickly. The second one is it sparks creativity. I like to think of it as my brainstorm buddy that I have at the ready 24/7. So this is someone that I can go to and bounce ideas off of and really just kind of get that creativity sparked. And then finally, it actually can help you become a better presenter. There are tools out there that give you a platform to practice presenting and get real-time feedback. And so this is just another way that you can use these types of tools to become a better presenter.
That's so interesting. And, I will tell you, I first had this come into my orbit within the context of powerful presentations when I was working with a client and they were, heavy engineer based. And one of the things that we teach in the content framework, as you know, is having an unexpected open, some way to grab people's attention. Well, for this particular person, that was a leap too far. He could not figure out how to say something that was going to pull people into their content immediately. So he put it in ChatGPT. He's like, what is an unexpected open, a way to grab people's attention on this topic? And it spit out a bunch of ideas. And he delivered his presentation with that and did not tell me in advance, but then, said afterwards, hey, that unexpected open, that was written by ChatGPT. I'm like, no way. Well, so, I think it's interesting. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I've done the same thing just a few weeks ago. I was putting together a presentation on brand strategy. And the first thing I did was I wanted an unexpected open. So I went to ChatGPT, and I'll tell you, I was kind of working with the thing about ChatGPT is that you don't have to take the initial response. You can go back to it and ask for more. So I was asking for things like stats around brand strategy or quotes that I could use. So I went back and forth with it and came up with a powerful quote that I thought really kind of supported my message throughout this presentation. But I took it a step further, Karin. Not only did I have ChatGPT help me come up with the emotional opening, but I also had it help me tie it to the end of my presentation. So I had that kind of like that full story arc. So it helped me kind of come up with a way to like bring it back up toward the end. So there's a lot of use cases.
Bookended your presentation.
Yes, I did. So it is a powerful
and I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, I love that, Maggie. I think that is really, a great way of using it, even for those of us who, truly have been, writers our entire lives. I think it's interesting to consider it also from the perspective of those who may not have that as their key skill set, and they just need to have a little bit of guidance, and then, also, perhaps not take it word for word. In fact, you probably shouldn't. And to that point, love the speed with generative AI, and, kind of the boost, but, is there a risk of losing that human touch?
I think this is where the real skill comes in. AI is there to support storytelling, but not take it over. Now, I heard an analogy recently that I really like about AI, and is to think of it as a sous chef. So it's really there to help you with those kind of time-consuming tasks so you can focus more on the big picture. So think about AI as helping us shape the bones of a presentation. So maybe you use ChatGPT to create an outline, but you still need the presenter to bring that relevance to it, to bring the authenticity to it, and making it personalized a little bit more for the audience. And really, at the end of the day, bring the heart of the person into that presentation. So what I think is like AI and humans together are really just the ultimate dream team. So
yeah, I love that. So it's like, it's your assistant, but like truly like authenticity, has to underpin all of it. That's just, the best presenters are steeped in it. If you try to replace it with a machine, you're probably going to lose a lot of your authenticity in the process. But having that little assist is really valuable. One of the things that I work a lot with clients on, and I know you do as well, is storytelling. And, we would both, I think, say that storytelling is often what separates a good presentation from a great one. Is there a way that generative AI can help with that skill?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of value to storytelling and using AI. One, it can help you generate those analogies and those metaphors. And for people who work in complicated industries, it can help you find ways to break down those complicated concepts and put them into more of a storytelling way. So absolutely, I will say using ChatGPT for storytelling is extremely helpful, especially for people who don't naturally think that way. But you touched on something earlier that I want to stress is that I've been using generative AI for quite a while now. Never have I copy and pasted anything from ChatGPT into a presentation or into anything I'm doing. That's where I think you really do need to massage the things and find a way to bring your, kind of like your personality into it. And you're going to find things, even if you go back and forth with ChatGPT to get it to a really good place, there's still going to be things you're going to want to tweak and change. So it's there for you to help you with any like gaps you might have in your skill set.
Let's dig in a little bit more on that, the whole kind of idea of ethics behind using it. What are some of the potential pitfalls that you have to be aware of when using Gen AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really key here. One, you need to do your fact checking. So make sure if you are getting information from ChatGPT, it's actually valid. Look at the sources. They have the sources there for you to review. And you need to know that ChatGPT isn't going to give you the most up-to-date information. So earlier I mentioned I was trying to get stats around brand strategy in it. Well, if you are doing something like that, you need to also go to the internet and make sure those stats are up to date, because there could be more up-to-date numbers or data available in situations like that. I'll also stress the data privacy concerns there are with ChatGPT, but truthfully, I think the internet alone, there's a lot of data privacy issues. So I would just be very cautious about sharing any personal information or sensitive information like your birth date, your social security number, any really, personal type identifiable information with these types of tools. But I think in general, you have to be careful doing that anywhere on the internet, but just be extra special or extra cautious there. And the reason that you do is because if ChatGPT was breached, obviously your data could get into the wrong hands. So just be extra cautious when you're using these tools, and never share personal information.
Yeah, and especially, if you're doing it within the context of like your business, you don't want to be sharing, IP that should not be out there. You want to make sure that you are not violating any sort of privacy rules within your enterprise, because that can get you in big trouble. And I know that there are versions of the Chat GPT that are built into some organizations where it's, based upon their own information. But, just going on chatgpt.com and then putting in your information, that is a no-no, because, that does open up all sorts of doors to that information being used almost to train the model, correct? I believe that's how it works. Like it'll train based upon the information that's fed into it.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing, but there are settings that you can change to not use your information to train their models. So it's really about how you customize it, but it is an option to turn that setting off.
Oh, that's so interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you for teaching me that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the tools, like the specific tools that you like relative to generative AI that have helped you create powerful presentations.
Okay, well, I could talk all day about this, but I'm going to boil it down to the 3 tools that I'm really using right now, and they're all going to be varied. So let's start with the one that we've been talking about and everybody's been talking about these days. It's ChatGPT. I've also used Gemini, which is Google's tool. So I've played around with both of them, but definitely more familiar with ChatGPT. The free version is really going to be powerful for your basic user. It's very much text-based. So if you're looking to build outlines or brainstorm headlines or just storytelling, like ChatGPT in that
Writing
way.
emails that you didn't want to use.
Absolutely. Planning
your own brain.
Yeah, even planning a basic trip, you can do things like that in the free version of ChatGPT. So like I said, it's a great brainstorming partner just with the free version. However, if you do start to get a little bit, deeper into it and you want to unlock more of those GPTs, you can pay for the premium version. It is $20 a month, which is not cheap, and it's I think more than my Netflix subscription if you break it down. So there is a cost to it, but it does unlock a lot more. Again, like if you wanted to use it to create images, you would have to pay for the premium version. And, the premium version does have a model that's a little bit more up to date and robust. So you have options there, but if you're new, I would say get started with the free version. The other thing
Have you used it? Can I ask you a quick question, Maggie? Have you used it to create images?
I have used it to create images. I will say I don't use them a lot because I haven't
Yeah.
been able to untap or like really tap into anything I love yet. But if you do need a basic image for a presentation, you can find some really good stuff there. So the second tool that I've been using, Karin, and I think you'll find this one really interesting, is about helping you refine your presentation skills. And the one I've been practicing with is Udly. And so this one is pretty simple. You upload a presentation and you're going to get real-time feedback. Everything from your delivery to your word choice, if you're using those filler words, if you're not pausing enough, all those little basic things to help you kind of refine your presentation skills. These are nice if you're in a pinch and you need some real-time feedback quickly. And they do a pretty robust job of giving you, like the feedback I think is pretty much routine, communication skills. But I will say the cons is that there's nothing like having that personal one-to-one coaching like you deliver with your students. And I think everyone would say that they're not going to get that personalization. They're not going to get those recommendations that really brings out them in their presentations like you do with your students. So I will say you're not going to get that one-to-one type of setting in these tools. And the other con I do have with these is that you do have to eventually pay for them. So you're likely going to get a free trial for maybe a week or 7 days, but then you're probably going to have to pay. A lot of them range around $10 a month. So you just have to decide if that's the investment that's really going to help you perfect those skills on a real day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And can you spell that for us just so that our listeners and viewers can know what that tool is?
Absolutely. It's Yoodli. So Udly.
So it's interesting. Gosh, probably a decade ago, I was asked to be the human assessing some of the capabilities that you're talking about. I had a company that was trying to train an algorithm to assess how somebody was performing vocally. And so they sent me all these clips and I had to say, oh, this was too fast. This was too slow. This pause was too long. They didn't pause at all. And I was basically helping them to train the algorithm. And I remember at the time, I'm like, that's not possible. You're not going to be able to replace the human. And I agree with you, Maggie. I still think that the human touch is superior. But if you're in a pinch and you have a presentation tomorrow, being able to practice and plug it into this system and get some feedback on it can be really illuminating.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of professionals out there, especially when you think about sales teams and folks like that are delivering to customers on a daily basis and really want to, hone those skills. These are great for teams like that. But I have one more tool that I think everybody should be using, and that's Grammarly. I'm a stickler for typos, and I don't know if you're like me, Karin, but if you ever sat in a presentation where someone had a misspelling on their slide, and that's all I focused on. And so you don't want people to be focused on a misspelling on your slide. You want them to be focused on you and your message. And so why not copy your information from your slides into Grammarly and do a quick copy edit? The free version does that wonderfully. You don't have to pay for the premium version to make sure you don't have typos on your slide. So I would say this is something everyone should be using every single day.
I think that's great advice. And yes, it does drive me absolutely batty when I see a typo on a slide. And oftentimes, I've done it myself, where if you look at something that you've been looking at forever, you don't pick up on the fact that you transposed letters. Can I ask you a little bit about prompts? Because, so that's what you're typing in, like, for example, with like a ChatGPT. Is there an art to writing a good prompt?
Yes, there absolutely is. And I've taken a lot of training on it. I will say there's a lot of material out there to help people do this. The art is really about being very detailed about what you want. So let's say that you wanted to create an outline for a presentation. If you're writing that prompt, you want to put in there, what is the topic that you want to be talking about? Do you have any time constraints or character constraints that it needs to consider? Are there any other nuances that you want it to take into consideration? I would say the biggest one that I always add to my prompts is who is my audience? Because if I'm going to create a presentation around brand strategy, a presentation to a fourth grade class versus a C-suite audience is going to be very different. So you definitely need to let it know who your audience is for this, and you will get a better response in doing that for sure.
That's such a great idea to add that, because, I think about how we begin any sort of presentation training. It's all about audience analysis. You need to know who is on the receiving end of your message to ensure that it lands well. But I don't think I would have thought about doing that in my prompt for ChatGPT. So that is a really, really good point. So hopefully we've piqued some interest from those who are listening and watching this episode, and perhaps they are a bit overwhelmed by the idea of trying some of these techniques out. Where would you suggest they get started?
I always say start small. Go to ChatGPT and ask it a simple question. There's actually basic prompts on there if you just want to get started with that. But if you do have an upcoming presentation, like I said, start with an outline. Give a very detailed prompt, as much information as you can, but just see what comes out. And then go back and forth with it. The thing about ChatGPT and these other tools is the more you use it, the more it starts to mimic your behavior. Whether you think that's good or bad, the more you work with it, you're basically training it to be more like yourself. So make sure you're commenting, giving it thumbs up or thumbs down, telling it you want it in a different tone, being more precise with the way you're prompting. And it actually will get better the more you use it. So don't be afraid, give it a try. And if you need any help, of course, we're here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be talking more about that for sure, because, as you're teaching me today, and the part of the process is to teach our clients as well on how to, leverage this really pretty incredible capability that is now available and accessible to the masses for the most part. But I always like to leave our listeners with one big takeaway that they can kind of chew on until the next episode. So I'm going to toss that question out to you, Maggie. If there is one thing you'd want people to take away from our conversation about generative AI, what would you say it is?
I think that the big thing is don't be afraid. Get in there and try it. Like I said, I started with something simple that I thought was a use case that was really something I needed help with, was just travel planning. And so I started with travel planning, and then I would ask it for recipes. And then as I started to use it and bring it into my professional life, that's where I really started to unlock the real power of ChatGPT. So don't be afraid to go in there and use it for something simple at first. But I will tell you, once you start seeing the value that you're getting out of it, you will start coming up with the use cases that really are most impactful for you, help you fill those gaps in your skill set, and just become a more refined professional, I think, at the end of the day.
A more refined presenter for sure. If you're stuck on an unexpected open or a convincing close, feed it into ChatGPT in a way that's not violating any sort of privacy. But it sounds like you'll be amazed at what you can brainstorm together, where you have this, assistant helping you to become, better as a human presenter. So thank you, Maggie. This has been really interesting. And I am excited to try some of these tools that you mentioned and to see where it goes. And if I have any questions, I'm going to come right to you.
Good luck, Karin. I'll be there to answer any of your questions, of course.
Thanks, Maggie. Wow, there is so much to learn when it comes to generative AI and communications. And that's why I'm really excited to share with all of you the latest offering that we have created under the Speaker Dynamics mantle, which Maggie has developed, called Using Generative AI for Powerful presentations. So if you would like to learn more about this, I would encourage you to go to speakerdynamics.com/bonus content. Once again, it's speakerdynamics.com/bonus content to learn more about the different learning objectives and what you can take away from this training for you or for your team. Thank you so much for listening to this episode and for becoming part of the Speaker Dynamics Own the Room community. If you can help us spread the word, we'd really appreciate it. So let your colleagues, your friends, your family know about us and where to find us. Until next time, everybody.